Hey, welcome back to my channel. This is Rhythm Shift back with another review, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the ThreeZero G.I. Joe Storm Shadow 1/6 scale collectible figure. Now, much like the Snake Eyes figure who I just reviewed, just to reiterate a few things because they're going to be concordant with what I just said before, I was a huge G.I. Joe fan in the 1980s. Again, over here it was called Action Force. Forgive me, it's called Action Force over here, but it was still the same G.I. Joe, you know. And Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes were two of my favourite characters, much like most people growing up in the 80s. You know, it was the age of the ninja. The ninja was just super cool in the 1980s, for reasons I don't know why, but you know, the ninjas appeared so prominently in popular culture. You know, you had the obviously G.I. Joe, Storm Shadow, Snake Eyes. You had the American Ninja movies. You had games like Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, Shinobi, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You know, in the 80s, the ninja was like kind of like the coolest thing ever. Even in Masters of the Universe, you had the character called Ninja, which is a great one of my favorite characters in from the villains, at least from Masters of the Universe. But again, I'm a big He-Man and the Masters of the Universe fan. Maybe I should start doing reviews of those some point soon. But yeah, talking about this ThreeZero G.I. Joe Storm Shadow 1/6 scale collectible figure. Here we have the box, and the box art is very similar to what we saw with the Snake Eyes figure. So you've got the Snake Eyes here, and it's great because it's a throwback to the 80s Real American Hero toy line. And if you put them together, they do look good side by side. I mean, the artwork looks very consistent. Essentially, it's just a product shot of the figure itself, but having that explosive effect behind them really harkens back to the 1980s Real American Hero toy line box art, and I love that box art. I mean, generally, box art in the 1980s was just phenomenal, all across the board for toy lines. But those G.I. Joe figures, card backs were really cool to look at. And even more cooler, the fact that they had, how do you say, that they had file cards and bios too. So let's talk a bit about Storm Shadow here, because he's the man of the hour. So I just got this figure today actually, so my thoughts are still quite fresh where this is concerned. So there you've got the front of the box as I've shown you. Storm Shadow's portrait on the side, much like Snake Eyes. On the back of the box, it shows a few action poses of Storm Shadow with his various bits of accessories. And on the side, you've got a very nice Cobra logo, because Storm Shadow started out on the side of Cobra, although he did become a part of G.I. Joe later on. So that's the box. Oh, I should mention too, if you open up the box, you will actually see another Cobra logo here, and on the Snake Eyes one, I think it's an eagle in there. Yes, the eagle for the G.I. Joes. And you would see the inside of the packaging, the bubble, the plastic tray, I should say, that the figure comes in. I've taken him out the tray, so that I'll show the tray in a moment. And bear me a second. Right, so where's the tray? Where did I put it? There. So inside you get the tray, and the tray contains some instructions of how to assemble Storm Shadow and his parts. Pretty much the same as Snake Eyes. You get your ThreeZero warranty sheet, which I was just reading, and annoyingly it says you need to register your warranty for the figure within 14 days. And I have not done that with my other ThreeZero figures. It says you got to go, thank you for purchasing ThreeZero's product. Please provide the following information on HATHP, warranty ThreeZero, email to warranty ThreeZero within 14 days upon receipt of product, otherwise warranty will be forfeited. That's some straight bullshit, man. That's some straight bullshit, man. I might have to look at pure consumer rights, but really, if you're buying a product, you should have a warranty for at least more than 14 days, man. Talking shit about, oh, if you don't register it within 14 days, you ain't gonna get no warranty. To hell with this bullshit, man. I'm sick of people trying to take people for a ride, man. And when you've got people supporting your products, buying your products in good faith, you should give good customer service, man. But I suppose good customer service is a thing of the past these days. But anyway, that's that. That's what you get inside the box. You get this tray, and in this tray you get the Storm Shadow figure himself. I've got a couple of extra accessories in there, which is his various fists, which I should take out actually. But with this figure, there's not as much to fall out or lose as there was with Snake Eyes at the time. You've only got his Nunchaku up here, so they're quite secure in the package. I'm going to take his fists out now, because those are going to be used in the review. If I can even get them out. There we are. Let's get those out of the box and out of the way. So now that's out of the way, let me put this back in the package, get some order in this court, because there's a bit going on here. Right, that's a bit more tidy now. So, where's the Storm Shadow himself? Let's get him on the stage. Right, here's Storm Shadow. Just going to show him how he appears when you first get him. Take his little sword sheath off. So when you first get Storm Shadow, it's going to look like this. Comes packaged in the box in this way. Just putting him back together. So as he appears in the box, he comes with his hood up and his sword sheath off. So that's how you get him straight out of the package. And straight out of the package, I was already impressed with this figure. Now, just like the Snake Eyes, he does not include a stand, so I'm going to be using a Hot Toys stand that I've got spare here, just to stand him up, because these 1/6 figures don't have the tightest of joints in their legs. So this is how he appears first out of the box, and I was really impressed when I saw this, because this to me is how Storm Shadow should look in his V1 look. Now he comes with a hood, which is really a nice addition. The V1 toy didn't have a hood, but I think that's really cool that he does. Gives him some kind of like Scorpion MK11 vibes having the hood like that. As you can see, he's a very, very, very well proportioned figure, and his arms are a lot more powerful looking than Snake Eyes. You can really see the musculature here, really sculpted well, and in the back of the suit, and the material that this is made out of feels a little bit more sturdy than that fake leather that we get with Snake Eyes, so that's a good thing too. I mean, looking at this figure, he just feels a little bit more durable than maybe the Snake Eyes. But again, you're not really going to be playing with this toy. You know, you're pretty much going to be doing museum type poses with him. You know, putting him in a position, have him on your shelf. That's mainly what 1/6 scale figures are best at. So let's take a look at remove out the hood. The hood can be folded down, and you have a wire. There's a wire thread going through the edge of the hood to keep its shape, but you can pull that down and you can have him more in his sort of like vintage V1 Storm Shadow look. And I think the head sculpt is awesome. Let's take a look at that. He's got a lot of expression in his eyes. I mean, this looks like Storm Shadow to me. This is how he should look. I mean, we recently had the G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes movie come out, and in that Hasbro released some classified figures from that movie, and the Storm Shadow in that movie line, that wasn't Storm Shadow, man. That was a guy in a flipping piss stain looking I don't even know what they were doing with that suit is, and he's got these weird sort of orange fingertips on his gloves, which look like his fingernails are painted. He just looks really odd. And you know what I mean? Sometimes, look man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The classic designs sometimes are the best. So yeah, Storm Shadow's looking great, man, and he's got sculpted detail in his kind of costume here. It looks really cool, really solid, really strong looking Storm Shadow. So before I go any further, I want to use the tape and tell you how tall he is. Now we know he's a 1/6 figure, so it's going to be 12 inches, but just for argument's sake, he stands exactly at 12 inches tall, which is great. Same height as the Snake Eyes figure, so they look very good together. So what I'm going to do is pause this for a moment. I'm going to read the Storm Shadow's bio. Okay, so here's the bio for V1 Storm Shadow. So it says his function is Cobra Ninja, codename Storm Shadow. Primary military specialty Assassin. Secondary military specialty is Intelligence. Birthplace Classified. Storm Shadow can trace his family history through 30 generations of assassins. He can scale sheer walls with his bare hands and feet, move with blinding speed, and endure unspeakable hardship and pain. Qualified expert in longbow, samurai sword, throwing stars, nunchaku sticks, 8th degree black belt in 5 martial arts. That's interesting because I think Snake Eyes is proficient in 12 martial arts. Storm Shadow is proficient in 5. It says the great ninja assassin clans disappeared 100 years ago. If they were wiped out, nobody took the credit for it, and if they're still around, who are they working for? Interesting question. So that's Storm Shadow's V1 bio, and taking another look at this figure up close, there's a few differences. Like in the V1 Storm Shadow, he was predominantly white, but on this version you've got some accents of grey, which I think really work well and help to define some contrast in areas of this character, so he looks really good. So we're going to talk about the articulation. You can look left and right very easily. Up can go that far, down that far, not that much. He can rotate at the biceps. Nice solid joint, no ratchets there, but on the lateral movement you've got really strong ratchets, you can hear those, very nice. He's got a bicep bend. However, you can't really bend these arms too far without the flesh looking like it's creasing. So you can go about that far. He's got a sort of inward out lateral movement on the elbow there. He can rotate his wrists. And as I said, I'm very cautious about these ThreeZero wrist pins, so wrist pegs I should say. So I'm not going to be moving them too much, but you can get some rotation and pivot on them, but due to the Snake Eyes one breaking, I'm a little bit apprehensive to move that. Now the interesting thing I noticed about his Storm Shadow, which varies from the Snake Eyes, is that there doesn't seem to be an ab crunch on my one. It might be the case that I've got a figure that might be a little bit tight, but when I was trying to move him earlier, when I was first taking him out of the box, I was trying to get into ab crunch and it wasn't moving, and I ended up actually dislocating the right leg. And I thought, oh shit, I've broken a brand new figure. But I was able to put the leg back on the peg, so it's fine. It's not broken, it just came out of the socket, dislocated. But when I took I had to undo the trousers and pull them down to reconnect the leg on the ball and joint socket. And when I did that, I noticed that this whole body suit piece actually carries right down to his crotch and onto his bottom area. It's all one sculpted piece, so therefore there is some parts underneath it, but it doesn't really, from what I could tell, it doesn't look like there's an actual waist rotation on this, nor is there an ab crunch. Doesn't feel like anything's going there. I mean, it's very, very solid, and I think maybe they've glued this bodysuit down to the parts underneath, which is what's maybe inhibiting the movement, because on Snake Eyes he moves very freely around his torso and midsection, and also on my ThreeZero Rambo. So I'm not sure if this is common to ThreeZero products or if it's just how they've designed this Storm Shadow. Nonetheless, even without ab crunch and waist rotation, it's still good. You've got forward motion on the legs that goes about that far. Can't go back too far because of his bottom, but it's fine. Outwards, I think he can get, yeah, full splits, so that's great. You've got a thigh cut, so you can rotate the thigh, and the material used for his trousers is very nice. There's actually some slight weathering on it. There's like little accents of dirt, which actually looks really cool. I mean, it stops him from looking like he's just pure white. It gives it some, you know, element of like, okay, this has actually been worn in the real world. It's cool. He's got a knee bend, which can go that deep, which is very good. He's got ankle up and down motion and a pivot motion, and that's his articulation. Slightly less than Snake Eyes due to the issue with the torso. I don't know if it's just my figure, but I haven't seen any other reviews of this figure yet, so I'll be interested to find out if, I don't know, if it's just my one where the torso is actually stuck to the body and it doesn't rotate or bend, or if this is actually how the figure's designed. So that would be interesting to see. So that's that. All good there. And he comes with some accessories. So much like Snake Eyes, he comes with 2, 4, 6 hands. So you've got the 2 hands that are on at the moment. Those are the hands that are used to hold the swords. He's got 2 expression hands, same as Snake Eyes, like this. 2 clenched fists, again like Snake Eyes. 2 clenched fists. And he's also got 2 grabbing hands, which I think are for the bow and arrow. Now I've already put the bow into this hand, because this hand's what holds the bow. So he comes with a bow. And he's got the one that actually pulls the string and holds the arrow, like that. So those 2 hands there. He comes with 2 additional wrist pegs, which are still in the box, but they did give some extra wrist pegs, so that's a good thing. Because as I said in the Snake Eyes review, the wrist peg on him broke very surprisingly and suddenly. So it's always nice to have some backups where that's concerned. In case of that eventuality. He's got 2 swords. The swords are actually slightly different to Snake Eyes' swords, although at a casual glance they do look the same. The difference is in the hilt. Here. Is that called the hilt or the wrist guard? That's a different shape to the Snake Eyes one. If I show Snake Eyes' one. Snake Eyes' sword has a different shape. But they actually... Snake Eyes' one is like this. You can see those 2 grooves cut out of it. Storm Shadow's one is more of sort of a hexagonal shape. So this is Storm Shadow's. But in terms of length, they're pretty similar. Same length, pretty much the same width too. So they're equally kind of matched, but you can tell the difference between them. So that aside, he also comes with a pair of Nunchaku, yeah, which okay, but I feel these Nunchaku are a little bit too small compared to what size Nunchaku should be. When you put them in his hand, you really see that they come up very small, like the chain. Look, the Nunchaku really should be about the width of the handle of the sword and the length too, but they're really thin and they're really thin and kind of short. But it's still nice to have them with a real working chain. But what else did he come with? I think that's it. Oh, he comes with some arrows. He comes with some arrows here. And actually he has 4 additional wrist pegs, which is a good thing. Is this more than we got with Snake Eyes? Quite possibly. So you got 2 there, 2 there. It's possible that, God forbid, if I have any more trouble with my Snake Eyes, I can use one of these spares. So that's a good thing. I think Snake Eyes came with 4. Yeah, I think Snake Eyes came with 4, including the 2 that are in his wrist. I have to count it again and find out. But either way, it's good to have some spares, because as I said, Snake Eyes is kind of broke on me, sadly. And he's got 1, 2. No, Storm Shadow comes with more than Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes has 2 in his hand, 1 that's broken, 1 that's here. Snake Eyes only came with 4. Storm Shadow has 6 wrist pegs altogether, including the 2 that are in his wrist. So that's a good thing, very good thing. So let's see how we can equip him. So you got the swords here. First of all, he's also got this part 2, which is his sword sheath and his quiver for his arrows, and he also has some arrows, which I haven't taken out the package yet. They're here. So there's the arrows. So he comes with a nice selection of things. The only thing I'd say that's missing for Storm Shadow is his shuriken, his throwing stars, because those were a prominent part of the vintage V1 Storm Shadow figures costume. I always remember that he had them shuriken tucked in his belt. So it might have been nice to have included a few of those, but I can live without them. It's not too bad. I'm glad that we've got what we've got. Now bear with me, I just need to put the charger in for this camera before the battery runs out. Yeah, it's going to be a pain in the ass to find that. No, I've got it. Right, so we'll continue now. Chargers in. So as I was saying, let's get Storm Shadow equipped. So first of all, we're going to start by putting his arrow quiver in his sword sheaths. Same principle as Snake Eyes. What you do is you gently remove the head, which is quite easy. It's a nice strong ball peg on these. You pull this off. Actually, the ball peg came out with the head, but hey, it is what it is. You lift his arm up a bit, and as you can see underneath his chin, you've got some material here, which is cloth, which is good. Gives it a nice feel. You slide this arrow quiver over, like so. Make sure you thread the hood through, and it should sit like that. Then you pop the head back on. It's going to be a bit difficult. Yeah, the pin came out with the head, which I don't think was supposed to happen, but it's not too bad. You can pop it back on, Lord willing. There you go. It's actually proving to be a bit tricky. Let me pause this and put it back on. Okay, so I've got the head back on. Because the pin came out with the head itself, it was a little bit tricky to actually reconnect it, but it's back on securely now, which is good. But in the process of doing that, I did notice that one of his pouches on his belt fell off while I was, struggling with the figure trying to get the head on. Now, this seems to have a little nub here. You can see here where this pocket pouch will actually clip on. So do be careful if you're moving the figure. These pouches actually aren't glued to the belt. They can actually be pulled off if you're not gentle, but they can be clipped back on. But just be aware that the pockets could fall off the pouch there. So that's that. I think it's on securely. No, it's not. Yeah, I think that might be a case where I might have to apply some glue, because that comes off very easily now. As you see, that just at the slightest touch this pocket falls off. So I'll probably use some glue and reattach that, but I'll put it to the side for now so I don't lose it. Looking at it, there does seem to be a slight dab where they put glue, but not very much, so be mindful of that, okay? Not the end of the world, but something to be aware of. So that's how he looks with his sword sheath and his arrow quiver on his back. And that kind of completes his look a bit more in terms of making him look more like the vintage figure. 80s V1 Storm Shadow. So, what else have we got? Let's start with his Nunchaku, right? So yeah, I said they look a bit small on him, but if you put them in the hand, he does hold them well with the sword gripping hands. But they just come up a little bit small. Like, they don't really look like dangerous at all. They don't look threatening. They just look kind of like, I don't know, pencils with chains attached to them. They don't really look like proper Nunchaku. They just don't look very threatening, but you can hold them well. Can you do a two-handed hold with them? See, and he can't even hold them over one shoulder and his arm underneath. Should have been good, but can you do a two-handed pose with these? Yeah, you can. So you could do that. Enter the dragon style. Showing the Nunchaku there. So that looks actually okay. That looks kind of cool. But I wish they were a little bit bigger. But these can actually be stored on his belt very easily. I'll just show you how that's done. If you unpeg them from his hands, the hands are a bit, they've got a good grip on them. He has two little pockets on his belt there, kind of like Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles. What you do is you thread the Nunchaku through, and you can store them on his belt. There we go. So that's cool. I'm feeling that. That looks kind of cool. To be honest, they look better as an accessory than they do in his hand, I think. And like better as a belt attachment than they do in his hand. Next we have his swords. Let's put his swords in his hands, so let's see how they look. They fit in very well. You can slide them through, like so. And like so. The grip on these hands is actually very good. They're very tight. There we go. And he holds them well. The swords aren't slipping around. They're not going anywhere. And you can have Storm Shadow in. Let's widen his stance a bit. Bring this down a bit. You can have a Storm Shadow that's more battle ready. You could call it that. So he holds the swords very well. They look very good in his hands. What else does he have? The bow and the arrow. So let's try these out. So to try that out, we're going to start by taking these swords out of his hands first of all. And we're going to show how the swords fit in the sheaths. It's very interesting because in the instructions that come with this figure, it says that the bladed edge to face down when putting the swords in the sheath, because the sheath is designed a certain way so the swords can only go in a particular way. Now in the instructions it says the bladed edge should be down. However, on my figure it doesn't fit in that way. If I try and put it in with the bladed edge down, they don't fit in at all. Whereas if I have the blade up, it fits in. So I think it might be a case where on my figure these might be upside down. Maybe they should be the other way around, but nonetheless it doesn't really matter too much because they will go in if you put them the correct way. So that's how he looks with the swords stored on his back, which is a good look, man. It's a very good look. The more you add to this figure, the better he looks. Forgive me, I just dropped the remote. So now we're going to look at his bow and arrow, and in order to do that we need to take his hands out. So here's the moment of truth. Is this figure going to break like the snake eyes? Let's hope not. So we're going to take this hand out very gently. That was okay, not too painful. Hand came out without the ball of the pin coming out too. Now here's something interesting, right? I'm going to take both hands out, and this is something that I noticed which I think would have been a really cool attention to detail if they'd have had this. So when you take his hands out, you can take his sleeves off, and what I noticed is that both arms, the Storm Shadow, are bare. Now, for those of you who are fans of G.I. Joe, you will know that Storm Shadow is supposed to have an Arashikage symbol tattooed on his forearm, his right forearm, and it should look like Snake Eyes is a Arashikage symbol here, but Storm Shadow has it tattooed on his right arm. So that's missing, and that's a bit of a shame because, as I've said before, with me, I really love little details and you know, subtle things. And if they had indeed included that, that would have been a great, subtle nod to, you know, the character, because that's what the character has. It's just like on my ThreeZero Rambo figure, for example. Rambo is known for having a scar on his right arm. From the moment in First Blood where he jumped off the cliff and landed in the trees, and he had to sew his the cut on his right arm back together again. On the ThreeZero Rambo figure, that cut is not present on the figure. You know, and again, another thing as well, the ThreeZero Rambo figure, I think they forgot that Sylvester Stallone is left-handed, so he should have had like a left hand that could grip the knife better. See, subtle little details like that, that sometimes toy designers, I guess, they don't think about things as deeply as maybe some of us fans do, for better or for worse. But speaking of Storm Shadow, I think it would have been really nice if he had the Arashikage symbol tattooed here. And even more importantly, he doesn't seem to have the Arashikage symbol anywhere else on his costume or his weapons, so it does feel a bit missing because it's not really represented anywhere on his figure, but it is represented on the snake eyes. But I just thought I'd mention that. So let's put his sleeves back on. So let's go back on. And we're going to use these hands to hold the bow and arrow. Now this is the first time I've actually used this accessory because, as I said, this is a brand new toy for me, so I'm seeing how this works live on the camera. So he holds the bow like that, and the arrows held in hand like that. Okay, that's cool. No problem with sorting out his hands. So I guess what we do is we try and position him, and this is where I think the lack of a waist rotation is going to hurt this figure a bit. So if we position his arm so it's holding the string, it's a bit of an awkward accessory actually. So you can have it there, and the string is actually, you know, real elastic string, so that stretches a bit. So let's take a look at these. This is the arrows. Let him stand up. So here's his arrows. Let's open these up and see how they work. You think he comes with about, was it 5 here? Let's see. They're all stored together in one little packet, but I'm going to take them out now. So they, he does come with a fair few of them. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he's got 6 arrows, so that's good. Let's try and put one of them. How does it go? Let's see the box. I think you're supposed to thread the arrow through the eyelet, because there's a little clip here. So hang on, let me just check this against the box art. So here's the box art. I'm trying to see where the arrow actually threads through. Does it go through here? No, it doesn't go through there. It rests on this little hook, I guess, and then you put the feathered end, I can't remember what it's called, through his fingers. It's a little bit tricky because these arrows are actually quite delicate. They're very thin plastics. I think it would be prone to breaking if you're not careful. And I guess you put that through there. There's a little hook part, so I suppose you put that, rest the arrow on that, and then he's like that. And again, this is where the lack of a waist rotation starts to hurt this figure, because if you could return his waist, he could be looking like he's shooting straight towards you or whatever, but here he's kind of like side on, and it's a bit awkward. But he does look okay. Does look okay actually. Like if you can have him like that, he does look alright. Now the rest of the arrows are supposed to go in his quiver, so let's put them in here. Actually, I do like this Storm Shadow. So you slide these into the part on his quiver here. They thread in. They will fall out though if you turn him upside down, because there's nothing securing them in place, but they fit in like that. 3, 4, final 1, 5. Actually, when they're all in there, they kind of hold each other in. That's actually good, because when you've got the quiver full, actually I don't even know if you could get a 6th in there, it'd be a bit tight. But when they're all in there, they kind of hold each other together. And they keep each other in, which is good. That actually feels quite nice, like it's quite secure. And yeah, that is actually very nice. Feeling that. Yeah, Storm Shadow's come to life. So I hope you can see that on camera. That's pretty much how he'll look holding the bow. And to be honest, I think I might have him holding the bow as my default pose for him, because he's known for being an expert with the bow and arrow. Like, that's the one area where, if I'm not mistaken, that was the one area where Storm Shadow was always dominant over Snake Eyes in his archery proficiency. You know, Snake Eyes could match Storm Shadow or even surpass Storm Shadow in other aspects of their martial arts, like swordsmanship or hand-to-hand combat, but Storm Shadow was always the master with the bow and with the arrow. Yeah, man, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling this, man. Yo, Joe. Yo, Joe, indeed. So yeah, man, just take a look at that. So what I think I would like to do is some comparisons, just like I did with Snake Eyes. I'll do some 1/12 scale, sorry, 1/6, forgive me, 1/6 scale comparisons. And also I'd like to point out that on the Snake Eyes video, his boots are quite similar, but there is a difference. His Tabai boots have a difference. Something I do like is ThreeZero does tend to include their logo in a hidden place, usually on the bottom of the sole of the foot. That's kind of cool. It's not too intrusive, but it lets you know who the figure is made by. And I'd also like to mention, I'm glad that they included the Cobra symbol on his top here, just like the vintage toy. It's great to show his affiliation, but I wish there was also some suggestion of the Arashikage clan on the figure in some way, shape or form. But alas, it is what it is. I guess we have to use our imagination and pretend that it's actually under his on his forearm, under his sleeve. Now the trouble with this stand, this hook stand for Storm Shadow, is that his crotch area is a bit thick, so it actually doesn't fit onto the groove. Now I suppose I could modify this and bend this out a bit more and it'd sit a bit more secure. I may well have to do that because at the moment he doesn't really sit too well on the hook because of the thickness of his top actually goes beyond the waist. It actually goes right down to the crotch and around the back, so it makes his crotch a bit thick to sit on this hook. But you can work it, but you know, I think for long-term durability and stability you might want to think about modifying that stand, or maybe getting a different type of stand for this figure. So we'll start with some comparisons. So I'm going to do Rambo first because he's another archer type character. He's got a bow and arrow likewise. And Rambo's got... There we go. Alright, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. And he's just dropped an arrow, which I'm going to have to find now. Bear with me while I find the arrow. Okay, so here's the ThreeZero Rambo next to the ThreeZero Storm Shadow. Now, I'll show this. Rambo's arrows are in same sort of thickness, but it's got an explosive warhead, as you saw in First Blood Part 2, which isn't on the Storm Shadow version. And also the part at the bottom, forgive me, I can't remember what it's called. Is it the quill? I don't know, I can't remember, but the quill is larger on Rambo's than it is Storm Shadow's. But they're roughly the same length and roughly the same level of durability. And height-wise, Rambo stands slightly taller than Storm Shadow, I think, but it's just very fractional. But they do look good together, man. I mean, if you want to cross universes and pretend that Rambo is in the G.I. Joe universe, that would work. You could do that, man, and that's great. So next we're going to do a comparison with... Put his arrow back. No, I'm not going to put it back now. I'll leave it for now. Under his arm. Next we're going to do a comparison with a female figure at the 1/6 scale. 2 in fact, we'll do 2 female figures because that's all I've got. This is the Resident Evil 5 Shava Alamar figure from Hot Toys. And she stands and looks good next to Storm Shadow. I mean, you can clearly see the contrast between proportions of a female body versus a male body. Hold on, get that right. And they look good. You know, it's a nice, put this down a bit. That's a nice contrast between a male and a female body type. So taking her out of the mix, we're going to put in Hot Toys Elita Battle Angel figure. Again, to see the contrast between the male and the female buck. That looks great. You know, Storm Shadow looks very masculine and Elita looks very feminine with her berserker body hair. And again, on a Storm Shadow figure, this seems to be like it's going to be more durable over time, because this fake leather stuff, as I said in my Snake Eyes review, it's very fragile, very delicate. You have to take good care of it in order to prevent it from cracking and peeling and splitting and all that kind of shit. You have to really take good care of that stuff. But I think Storm Shadow is going to be good. I mean, only thing that I think might be an issue is the wrist pegs, if they're as flimsy as they were on Snake Eyes. Otherwise, he seems like a very sturdy, well-built figure. So taking Elita out of the picture, and we're going to bring in Snake Eyes, because that's the real comparison that people want to see. So here is Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes together. This is what you really want. I mean, this is what I guess people really want to see, how these guys look together. And there you have it. I think they look great together. I mean, as I said, I don't really intend to be buying many more 1/6 scale figures because of the issues of, you know, how delicate they are and how expensive they are. But if I was only going to have 2 characters represented from G.I. Joe, these are the 2 I'd pick to have on my shelf. And again, if they did a Cobra Commander, I may be tempted. Or a Lady J, I may be tempted. But other than that, I think I can live with just these 2. Or maybe a Flint, because I love Flint. But if not, I'm happy just to have these 2 representing G.I. Joe on my 1/6 shelf. And going back to Snake Eyes, I already mentioned that the proportions of his body seem very skinny. I think they should have used a similar body that Storm Shadow had for Snake Eyes, so that we could see some more musculature under the suit. Because on this suit, it looks like he's very skinny already, and then the suit is kind of loose on him, especially around the arms and stuff. So that's a bit of a shame, but it's not a deal breaker, you know. I think it's still a good figure. I think Storm Shadow is a great figure too. Not sure which one I prefer, because as a child I was always going back and forth, like, who do you prefer, Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow? Snake Eyes, you know, some weeks it would be Snake Eyes, sometimes it would be Storm Shadow. I love them both. It's like asking someone, who do you prefer, Ken or Ryu? You know, they're both great. You know, if Street Fighter wouldn't be Street Fighter if it didn't have both Ken and Ryu. You know, so just like G.I. Joe wouldn't be G.I. Joe if you didn't have Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. So I want to do a pose here to show how they can look together. Like, try and get something a bit dynamic, you know. Now, again, the lack of waist articulation in Storm Shadow is a bit of a bitch when you're trying to pose him, because it does limit him a bit. You could do something like that. And something similar with the Snake Eyes. And again, the annoying thing about these 1/6 figures is that parts dropping off all the time, you know. Just got to be so careful with these things. They're not really meant to take play in, you know, durable play and so forth, but you can get something like that, like pretend that they're in combat. Let's get them a bit closer. There you go. You can have something like that. I mean, forgive me, because these figures are so large, it's a bit hard to get them all in the shot. But yeah, you could have something in your display. There's something slightly dynamic, you know, rather than just a standard museum pose. And I think they look great, man. That's really, really nice. I'm very happy to have these 2 in my collection. So, I'm going to set up the turntable and we'll get him on a rotation, and I'll share some of my final thoughts. Right, so that concludes my review of the ThreeZero G.I. Joe 1/6 scale Storm Shadow figure. Final thoughts are, this figure is great. I mean, for a 1/6 figure, I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 1/6 figures, but this is definitely one of my favourite, and I've only just received this. As I said, I just got this today, and I think it really nails the essence of the character of Storm Shadow in terms of his look. You know, he has a great presence. He really feels like a Storm Shadow. Now, I've got classified Arctic Mission Storm Shadow here, and I do like this figure. I mean, it does. I'm happy with it in terms of what it does for G.I. Joe classified, but it's not the V1 most recognizable Storm Shadow. And although this is a good figure, the V1 Storm Shadow has always been my favorite look for Storm Shadow. I mean, I did love his V2 look as well. It was so cool. The arrow's bent. Forgive me. Straight it out. Oh, there we go. It falls. The V1 Storm Shadow, I think, is the one that everybody knows and loves. It's the most iconic look for the character. So it's nice to have it represented in 1/6 scale to such a nice degree. Let me fix this. And the pros are Sculpt. The cons are the sacrifices in some parts of the articulation. And as I said, I don't know if it's just a case of my figure, but there's no waist rotation and there's no ab crunch. And for example, it makes his bow and arrow stance pose is a little bit limited in terms of what you can really do. Because I'm looking at him here, and I can see he's not holding the bow perfectly straight to aim it correctly. You might not see it on the camera so well, but I can see it's kind of, he's holding it a bit side on. So it is a bit difficult to pose the bow and arrow in any other pose than what I have here. Another flaw is the pouches on his belt fell off. I'm going to actually have to use some glue to reattach that, so do beware when you get the figure, when you're posing him. That might be something you want to be mindful of, that you don't lose it. The Nunchaku are a bit small. They don't really look very threatening or very, dangerous, but they do look good in his belt as, just a belt accessory. The swords are great, and the material overall that the figure is made out of does feel a lot more durable than the material that was used on Snake Eyes, so hopefully this will stand the test of time. So I would definitely recommend this figure if you're a fan of G.I. Joe and you want to have some representation of the two core ninja characters of G.I. Joe. I think that covers it. Oh yeah, and it's a shame that there's no representation of the Rashikage symbol on this figure at all. Like, he should have the tattoo on his forearm. I think they went a bit lazy there by not actually printing that onto the forearm, but hey, it is what it is and I can live with it. But otherwise, this is a great figure and a solid addition to my collection, and I'm very happy to have Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow together in the 1/6 scale, and I think these are keepers. They're definitely going to be around for the foreseeable future in my collection. As I said, I'm not much of a 1/6 scale collector, but the figures that I do get at these scales have to be characters that I have some particular emotional connection to, which is why I've got the characters that I have at this scale. So I hope that review has helped you make up your mind as to whether or not you want to get this. As I said, I picked these up, both Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, from Kapow Toys here in the UK. Not sure if they've got any more in stock because I pre-ordered them around November or December and they've just finally come in stock. But you should be able to find them on maybe Big Bad Toy Store, or failing that you could try eBay perhaps. But yeah, I hope that review has helped you make up your mind if you want to get this figure or not. I like it and I'm very happy to have him in my collection. So with that, as always, thanks again for watching. Thanks again for those of you who are supporting the channel, and I hope you've enjoyed the videos, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care for now.